Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast. It's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. Can I tell you something I've noticed? There is almost always one thing sitting in the corner of your business waiting for you to pay attention to it. You know exactly what it is. It might be the email you've written or rewritten 6 times, but you haven't had the balls to send it yet, or the offer that you've been talking about launching forever, the thing you want to put out there, but you just can't hit the button. It's those things like that, right? The rate you want to raise, but you don't. The conversations you're avoiding, you get me, right? The things that we're avoiding, you're avoiding, that you know is just sitting there. You know the one. In fact, I have a feeling that even as I'm saying this to you right now, it came to your mind. You didn't even need to go too deep in order to get the answer. And here's what's fascinating. You probably already know what to do. You're not actually that confused. If I sat down across from you with a cup of tea and said, what is your next step? I bet you'd tell me in less than 30 seconds what it is that you need to do. You'd probably even tell me why it's important. You might even tell me exactly what will happen for you if you do it. And yet, it's still not done. So today, I want to explore a question that I think almost every one of us entrepreneur types asks herself at some point. Why is it that incredibly capable, smart women such as yourself, right, experienced, beautiful hearts, meaningful businesses, why can you know exactly what to do and still feel completely unable to do it? Somewhere along the way, you probably heard the message that if you're not taking action, you need more discipline. You need better habits. You need another strategy. You probably need to purchase a course. You probably need another coach to get you to do things. And what I've discovered after years of working with women in this sector is that we've been trying to solve the wrong problem a lot of the time, because many times we've been given this sort of wrong diagnosis. So I'm Michelle Poverman, and welcome to Into the Work. If you're new here, thank you for being here. I'm so happy to have you. We are stepping into understanding this pattern a little deeper today. So I want you to see if this sounds familiar. I've watched this happen with so many women, and if I'm honest, I've truly lived pieces of this myself. So understand that I am not preaching from some high mountain, okay? It usually starts with this feeling of something isn't moving or I can't quite budge. Your business isn't where you thought it would be by now. Maybe you've gotten off track, but you don't really understand the off track is taking you somewhere because you don't know where it's going. You're working hard, you're showing up, you're doing all the things, and yet there's this gap between where you are and where you know you're capable of being, where your potential lies. And I love talking about untapped potential because that in itself, I think, is just such a major aspect of our healing. So now, if you're anything like me, or the women that I work with, you do the most responsible thing you can think of, right? You start looking for what you're missing. Maybe there's some new strategy that somebody can help you with. Maybe there's some little timer you need to buy, right? I'm not knocking that. I got one myself. Maybe it's learning things more. Some of us want to learn and we procrastinate, right? So we want to dig in and go down a rabbit hole, and we're going to learn Instagram better. We're going to learn this better. We're going to get this new app. Maybe it's SEO or maybe it's messaging, and we just kind of really dive into what the other problems that it could be. Here's the interesting part, because there is always another framework, another strategy, and those things are really important. In fact, I talk a lot about the masculine and the feminine in our business and showing up, and a lot of these things are the masculine parts of our business that are absolutely important, and I don't negate them in any way, shape, or form. However, there's something deeper here that's really important that a lot of us are minimizing, avoiding, or not even recognizing as something that we need to pay attention to. And so you do the other things. You join some other program or you do something to kind of get that masculine edge back in place. And you do feel relief because you've taken some meaningful action. And there's something really important about meaningful action that's so big and so good for us. It really helps us feel unstuck. But because your nervous system believes that you've done something to solve the problem for a little while, everything feels possible again. You imagine who you're going to become. You picture the launch. You picture your clients. You picture the confidence. You almost feel your future self, this beautiful, beautiful thing, which is so potent and so important and such a big part of how to get where you're going. But it also tells me you haven't lost your vision if you've done those things, because that part of you exists within you. I think eventually you lose trust in yourself. So you dive in, you get excited, you're taking notes, you're highlighting everything, you're thinking, this is it. And then life gets busy and you miss a lesson. You promise yourself you'll catch up over the weekend. Another week goes by and you're behind. And that thing that you're supposed to be doing or putting that timer on your, it gets uncomfortable because you haven't really been doing it. And then you start avoiding, potentially. This might be you, it might not. It's me on the nose. And then eventually you stop thinking about it altogether until a few months later, and you've got that same uncomfortable feeling again about your business. And because you're such a responsible person, you go looking again. Can I ask you something? How many times have you done this? Seriously, take a second, count them. The certifications, the courses, the masterminds, the coaches, the books, they're all worthwhile, okay? So there's no shame in the game. This is all big, important stuff along your journey, and they're all part of shaping you. However, for most women I work with, the number is somewhere between 6 and 15. But here's the question that changed everything for me. So if the good information keeps entering into your life, like you know exactly what your next step is, but the same patterns keep showing up, maybe information isn't the thing that's missing for you right now. Maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along, because here's something I say all the time. Your business doesn't create your wounds, it reveals them. And your business is one of those most honest mirrors you're ever going to look into. It reflects your relationship with visibility, with worthiness, with receiving, with disappointment, with rejection, with uncertainty, or even being misunderstood. And it simply shines a light on the places that we're already asking you to heal. And if we keep treating those places like strategy problems, we'll keep buying those strategy solutions for something that strategy was never designed to solve. Make sense? I want to give you something today that I think you'll carry with you long after this episode. In fact, I'd love for you to actually do this with me while you're listening. So think back to the thing that came to mind at the beginning of the episode. The email, the launch, whatever that was, whatever you're avoiding right now, whatever you know would take you another step forward, something that needs to happen, that you want to happen, or you've thought about happening, but you're having a hard time acting on. Now, I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Am I deciding or am I delaying? And this is the big question that I was saying that was really helpful for me to really look at. This is the nugget of truth I want you to take with you today, that they sound almost identical. I'm just deciding, or I'm delaying. They sound similar, but they are not. If you're deciding, your thoughts sound something like this. Should I launch this as a group or a one-on-one? Or is this the right platform? Or would this pricing model make more sense? Those are questions that you're deciding, right? I honestly don't know what the best move is. I'm trying to figure that out. Now, those are strategy questions, and information helps those types of questions. Mentorship helps those questions. Experience definitely helps the strategy questions. But sometimes all you need is somebody who's been there before to point you in the right direction. But delaying sounds completely different. It sounds like, I know I need to raise my prices. I know that the client that I'm working with, this relationship has run its course. I know that. I know I need to send the email. I know that I need to stop hiding. Notice the difference? One is asking, what should I do? The other is whispering to you, I already know. And I want you to hear me really clearly. There are two completely different problems, and they should never be treated the same way. Because if you're delaying, you don't have information problem. You do not have an information problem, sister. You don't. You have an identity problem. And this is where so many women accidentally spend years solving the wrong thing. Because when we don't understand why we aren't moving forward, our brain assumes we must need more certainty. That's it. We need more certainty, or we need more confidence, or we need more knowledge or preparation. But you're doing this without ever asking yourself whether information is the thing you actually need in the first place. Strategy problems themselves, they create confusion. And identity problems, they create delay, avoidance, right? They're a fear response. And those are very different. Understanding this distinction changed everything. It really helps me in the moment call myself to the carpet and ask, is it confusion because I don't know? Or is it delay because some part of me doesn't believe I can? It doesn't believe or trust in my identity of holding the capacity for whatever's coming. And some part of me doesn't perhaps even believe I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to get on that stage and speak. I'm allowed to expand myself to a greater reach. And so that's a completely different conversation. And here's the part I wish someone had told me years ago. When you already know exactly what to do, more information can actually become another form of hiding. And that's why I love that phrase, procrastinating. And you probably heard that one. It is brilliant because that's what a lot of us are doing. Because jumping in and going into a rabbit hole of learning gives you permission to postpone becoming the woman who already knows, right? Stepping into your power is another phrase I'll use. You are avoiding that. And so I want you to let that really sink in. Sometimes we're not looking for more information about what to do. We're just avoiding listening to what we already know. And this can apply in all areas of your life, okay? Business is the playground of triggers. And so I love focusing on this, but this is like how we do one thing is how we do everything. So you're showing up this way in other areas of your life as well. But either way, we're trying to slow it down. We're trying to not have to face the pressure of becoming, quote unquote, her yet. Because hey, I want to invite you to something that has the potential to really change how you see your business and yourself in it forever. I created the free core wound quiz. In just 5 minutes, you'll uncover the unconscious patterns that are shaping your business. And you're also going to discover the soul level gift waiting on the other side for you. It's completely free, michellepoverman.com/quiz. And now let's get into today's episode. That would mean some things for us, right? And realizing that is a fear-based strategy allowed me to look at almost everything differently. Oh, am I delaying or am I just deciding? Because eventually I realized I wasn't procrastinating because I didn't know enough. I was procrastinating because the next action required me to really, do something or become someone that my nervous system wasn't convinced it was safe to be. And so honestly, and that's a very different, quote unquote, diagnosis, right? Honestly, it's a much more hopeful one. I hope this brings you hope to recognize that, oh, I actually have the answers. I actually have sovereignty. I actually am this person already. I just need to remember her. I just need to trust her. That's a whole different set of work that's full of light, love, and yes, blow me up and allow me to feel my most soulful self, right? So this is exciting news, if I can share it that way. I just don't see it as your problem that you're not enough. And I want you to understand that it's not about you not being enough in any way, shape, or form. And what I see is an incredibly capable woman trying to build extraordinary things. And while you're carrying a nervous system that learned very long time ago that being visible and doing all these very extraordinary things are going to be possibly disappointing people, possibly doing things that are going to upset somebody. And this is also why this endeavor that you've signed up here for, to create your own business, to get out there and make a difference, was a decision to do some deep healing work. Because if you are on this podcast and you identify as wanting to be aligned or soul led or any of those things that require us to be our spiritual beings, then you know that this is all about healing. So therefore, when you see the wound, you can stop making yourself the problem, right? I want to point out here that this pattern that we're talking about can be expensive. Expensive financially, like literally, let's talk money. I have been in business for a while, and you've probably, like me, if you've been in business for a while, like me, you've probably invested thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars trying to figure out why you couldn't get yourself to the next level. And honestly, I don't regret investing in myself in any of the things I've done. All of it was helping me get to where I am today. I think education matters. I think coaching is indispensable at times. Mentorship totally matters. I've invested heavily in these things myself. And so this isn't about telling you to stop learning. It's about asking a different question. So what were you hoping that those investments were going to fix? Because here's what I've noticed is that the greatest cost wasn't just the money, because money's energy. So it's just an exchange. It's really important to allow yourself to connect and exchange this energy. But a lot of times the greatest cost was the story you told yourself afterwards, every time you bought something. And then when you really didn't implement it, this is where I think the cost came in. Because you didn't implement it the way you imagined, because your programming slowed you down. Your brain filed that away as evidence that maybe you don't follow through with things. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. I'm not made for this. Maybe everyone else can do this except me. Maybe I'm just one of those people who never finishes things. I had that belief about myself, and I didn't start a podcast for years because I believed that about myself. I believed that there was no way I'd ever follow through with it, and I'd just make a fool of myself because I would start this thing and I would never finish it. And I can't tell you how deep that belief rang true. I had so much evidence. I could sit here all day and tell you how much evidence I had for that. But can you feel how heavy these stories become? Because after enough experiences like that, you stop questioning them. You start questioning yourself. And that's the heartbreaking part. And because it was never an accurate conclusion, it was not accurate that I could not follow through with it. Here, look, I just broke the rule. I'm in year 2.5. I'm on 115 or 16 episodes, and I was wrong. You're wrong too. Whatever you're telling yourself, you're wrong. Like the stories you're telling yourself are not based in fact. And it's heartbreaking because it was never an accurate conclusion. So what I'm establishing here is that the real obstacle that you're facing, I want you to recognize right here and now, it's not necessarily a lack of knowledge, but an old survival strategy that is running behind the scenes, convincing you maybe not to become the woman your business was asking you to become. I think you've been trying incredibly hard, and maybe you're even burnt out. Maybe you're feeling disconnected from the work that you're doing because you've not allowed yourself to go in a different direction because you've been holding yourself back. I think you've probably been incredibly committed and you've worked hard. And I think you're doing exactly what capable women do, and you're taking responsibility. You're invested. You've learned. You've kept showing up. You were trying to heal something with information, or you've been trying to heal something with perseverance, staying in the comfort zone. I want to talk a little bit about identity. Every next level that you want to get to asks you to become someone you've maybe never been before. Maybe your business is saying you need to hire people, and you haven't done that yet. Or whatever that next step is that's being asked of you. You've never been that person. You've never been that boss before. Or maybe you've never been the woman who stands on stage and speaks to 1,000 people. There are things that maybe you're trying to get to that you've never been before. Maybe it's even something simple as even just being the woman who raises her rates and stands at that number. And you don't know how to be at that number. And so you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to bring it up, but really is about becoming the woman who can hold her value. And even if someone says no, launching an offer isn't really about writing emails. It's about becoming the woman who can stay visible, even when not everyone responds. So ending a client relationship that is no longer in alignment isn't really about sending a difficult message. It's about becoming the woman who can disappoint somebody and can also hold energy, belief that it's in the best and highest good of all without abandoning yourself. It's about becoming that woman who can say, I'm going to disappoint them, and I know that this is in the highest good of all, and I have to be the one to hold that. I have to be the leader here that holds the knowing of what the highest good of all is, even when no one else can see it. And you have to be able to do that without abandoning yourself in the process. None of these are just business tasks. They're invitations. Every single one of them is asking something of your identity, of who you are and who you're willing to become. And that's why your business can feel so deeply personal. And because your business isn't just asking you to learn marketing, it's asking you to become more of yourself. So let's just pause for a quick second and just mention that self-sabotage is a real thing. Raise your hand if you've experienced it, everybody, right? So it's a real thing. I think a lot of times underneath the self-sabotage is us asking, if I become this version of myself, what is it going to cost me? And I think that's a real fair question, because somewhere long before you ever even owned this, maybe you learned that being visible attracted criticism. Maybe speaking up was going to create conflict. Maybe succeeding made other people uncomfortable. Maybe having needs wasn't welcomed. What was it like for you in your relationships? What has it been like for you growing up? Maybe disappointing somebody meant losing connection. Maybe you became the easy one. That future version of you is not necessarily. And that part of you that wants to feel safe is not a villain that we need to extract from your system. It is actually a part of you to have so much compassion and to really connect with, because she worked. She really did. She's protected you. She's helped you belong. She's helped you succeed in environments you grew up in. She's helped you create everything that you've created up until this point. She's sort of helped navigate things for you. And she's incredibly resourceful and she's intelligent. And honestly, she's probably exhausted, right? That little part of you maybe is connected to your inner child. I just want you to hear that I see you, that you're likely a little bit exhausted on this level, because she's trying to lead a business into a future using rules that were written decades ago. And that is why I don't love the phrase self-sabotage, because it makes it sound like you're working against yourself. And I don't think you are. I think you're protecting yourself. And there are two different things. One deserves judgment, one deserves your understanding. And I really want to help you to understand yourself more. And until we understand what she's protecting, you'll keep trying to overpower her or erase her, and we really need to hear her. And so that also can be part of the work. So what do we actually do with all of this? You might be expecting me to give you 5 steps. We're going to talk about a morning routine and a mindset exercise. And truthfully, I just don't think that's what you need today. Because if I handed you another strategy right now, I think we'd accidentally repeat the very pattern that we've been talking about this entire episode. You'd leave feeling inspired, you'd write down some notes, and then you promise yourself this week that you're actually going to do the things. And maybe a few days later you would, but eventually you'd come face to face with the same edge again. So I want to leave you with something more valuable, and I want you to leave you with a different way of seeing yourself. So the next time you catch yourself staring at that email or avoiding a conversation or rewriting the same post 20th time because it's not perfect yet, whatever your drink of poison is, I don't want your first question to be, what's wrong with me? I want it to become, oh, what is this protecting? That's it, right? Don't fix it. Don't force it. Don't judge it. I want you to get curious with it, because curiosity creates something judgment never, and that's safety. And healing almost always begins the moment we stop arguing with the part of ourselves that's been trying so hard to protect us. So I think that's what I've come to believe after all these years, that healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about understanding why you've become who you are with so much compassion that your nervous system no longer has to hold on to yesterday's rules. And here's the beautiful part. When that begins to happen, you don't have to force yourself into action anymore. Action becomes a natural expression of who you're becoming. There are two ways to build your business. You can build it from your wound, or you can build it from your vision, right? Energetically, very different. Most of us don't realize we're building from our wound, and we think we're building from our dreams because your wound can build a business. It just can. It just can't build the business your soul came here to create. That requires something completely different. It requires trust. It requires healing. It requires becoming. And I just want to say one more thing before we finish today. If you've been listening to this episode and recognizing yourself in it, are you sitting here thinking, oh my God, I have so much work to do? Because that's not what I want your takeaway to be. I hope you leave thinking, now I understand, because understanding creates compassion. Compassion creates safety, and safety creates change. That's the order. Not shame, never shame. And you could also take with you, okay, put this in your pocket, that procrastination, overthinking, perfectionism, people-pleasing, constant second-guessing, even indecision, I don't know what to do, they're all clues. They're clues pointing toward the place that your business has been inviting you to heal all along. That is exactly why I created the Core Wound Quiz, because I want to help you understand the unconscious pattern that's been shaping the way you lead your business. I want you to see and experience, though, that it's actually beautiful work, that it's not something heavy and scary and uncomfortable necessarily. It's something that cracks you open, makes you feel connected to yourself. It brings in the light when you look at these things. It's like shadow work. And so really, by taking this, I'm offering up to you an insight into what is going on inside for you so that you can bring that to the surface and start doing what we talked about today on the show and really looking at it and saying, oh, okay, that's what that is. Have compassion for it. And also, we're going to dive into your beautiful gift here and what you're here to bring to the world. And I want that to inspire you and understand that this work can be inspirational. Looking at the things that are hard can be incredibly uplifting. I know that doesn't sound quite right, but it's true. So take 5 minutes out of your life, check out the quiz, michellepoverman.com/quiz, or simply click the link in the show notes. And I'd love for you to take it before next week's episode because it'll bring you even closer to being seen in next week's when we talk about patterns. I'm looking forward to talking with you next week. Have a beautiful week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.